our extensions of the extremities away from the midline. And it can feel really good to extend the arms, even if you were to take a big yawn, start class with the palms out. And open the jaw. That is a liberating experience for the rib cage, the spine, and the entire upper body to extend. And there's really no danger in some postures, some extensions of just extending out of the center line of the body. But when we start to lean over to the side, for example, placing our left hand down and yawning, so to speak, or extending, engaging in what's called eccentric contraction, or lengthening of the muscles, we try to keep it strong. Then we start to feel where maybe we're a little bit weak structurally. If you check in for a few breaths, to the left hip you're leaning toward, to the right shoulder you're extending up. How do those joint spaces feel as you start to just take a little bit deeper into the lean and breathe into our warm-up sequence, pushing down through the left hip to pogo stick, or help further extend everything above, including that upper arm. We come up to the center, place the hands down, take a breath. Feel the areas that have been touched in the body. And then same thing, almost like a big yawn. We can secularize Urdhva Hastasana, or lifted arms, into a yawn, contracting a little bit of the paraspinals in the back of the body, so that the ventral sheath, the front of the body, gets a nice lift. And then we'll place the right hand down, fingertips or palm. Just start to mildly lean over to the right, feeding your breath as we go deeper and deeper into the main frame of the body, as if hoisting up the sails of the ship. And then filling those sails with the inhales, with that left arm, fingers spread, are going up. At the same time, as you start to drop down deeper, perhaps, you feel the weight in that right hip. How does it feel? How do the ribs above that right hip feel? Are they collapsing, getting compressed? Can you get a little uplift by pushing down with the right hip? And how does that left shoulder feel? Move it around a little bit. And then coming back to center. And then closing the eyes, feeling what that very simple extension exercise did to your Sukhasana. So there are simple things we can do to warm up and find connecting points of the extremities to the main frame of the body, so that when we start to get a little bit further along and the task becomes more difficult, those areas are engaged. And on Wednesday, I know a lot of people duck out of strength work, fearing for the worst. Wasn't bad, but it pointed to the fact that these areas around the joint capsules, hips, shoulders, really need to be engaged, whatever way you do it. Today we won't be using weights, we'll be using points of contact and the wall. So be near a wall if you can, grab a chair if you can. And then bring your palms to your heart, closing your eyes, and starting to come into your Ujjayi breath with the sound, the resonant sound in the back of the throat, and calming the nervous system. Even as we bring more prana, or more breath, into the main frame of the body, into the rib cage, front and back, feeling the diaphragm plunging on inhale and spreading the ribs, and exhale, releasing with a wave of lightness through the body. And then we'll try an Om. Inhale. Release. And then you can get yourself near the wall. And let's take the left side first, unless that's going to take you away from the visual of the screen. And we're just going to place our left palm into the wall, right at shoulder level. So gauge your distance. You can take your right hand down near your right hip. And now without getting extreme at all, just start to extend. You can even close your eyes once you see what I'm doing. Extend away from the main frame of the body. The center of the heart is really the nexus or the starting point of the arms, extending out toward your points of contact in your palms. So right hand on the floor, left hand. But try to feel as you slowly fill, almost like filling a balloon. Feel the shoulders, front of the shoulder, the back of the shoulder, under the armpit. Everything's expanding, so it's a pleasant sensation. It's an integrating sensation rather than trying to get all tightened up. Okay, and then let's place that left hand down on the floor. And then just like we did moments ago, some came in late, reach up with the right arm, which was formally down on the ground. The right hand comes up, floats up, and now we start to lean over toward the wall. Lean over toward the wall. You don't have to get your fingers to the wall. Again, push down into the left hip, which is getting a little crunched. Try to keep the right sitting bone and hip placed as well. And just get a nice lateral stretch. And then place the hands down. Let's take that left hand into the wall again. And now fairly quickly, you can start to extend the breath. The idea is, especially if you close your eyes, that eventually you can just intention or think, imagine that you can bring energy out, if you will, from the heart center through the circuitry into the palms. Now let's start to lean the other way. Let's take that wall arm up to the sky, the left arm, and start to lean to the right. And then come back to center. Now we're going to lay out in Anandasana and work a little with the feet. So all we're going to do is stretch that right arm out along the floor and then kick our legs out from underneath us and place them left over right on our right side body. And you can even just keep that right elbow bent for a moment and get a little bit of stretch in those right rib cage, ribs, and your left hand can be down on the ground. Now tone your feet into the wall, but feel now the legs are really operating from the nexus or the control panel in the core. Check out your hips as you just gently breathe and extend into the wall. If this is too hard, we're about to go down onto the extended right arm, but try to stay with it. We just did a side bend, in fact. And now, can you just float that left leg up a few inches, toning the outer left hip, and then come down. Just do some little leg lifts. Again, if you want to take your right forearm a little more forward or even lay your head down, if that's easier for you, and go ahead and just lift that left leg and feel the strength around the left hip. Typically a place that right-handed people get very weak as the years go by. Okay, and then we're going to try to come right into Anandasana. We'll take the left foot high on the inseam of the right leg. Again, you can be propped up on your forearm, or you can come down into the classic, sliding your right forearm forward and propping up your head, your right hand. And again, those that have a little bit of tightness in the right side, you could just lay your head right down on your right arm as I just showed. And see if you can keep pushing into the wall now with your right toes, and take a peek at that left knee. And now start to place the back of the left hand into the inner knee, left knee pushes into the left hand. Now we're in an extension requiring both the control panel and the belly, the core, heading out to the legs, and the heart heading out toward the arms. You can even just bring your left arm up to the sky and stay there. Otherwise, you could start to lift that left foot off the right, maybe taking your first two fingers, your left hand and your left big toe, or using a strap, and then up you go. See if you can extend that left leg up, toning the outer hips, relaxing the throat as you breathe, length forward along the floor. And again, you can just go ahead and lay your right head down on the ground if you want. But breathe into the extended leg, the extended right ribs. And then release. And let's roll over onto our bellies. Place our forearms together for crocodile pose. And place our forehead on our forearms. Relax the belly for a second. Kick the toes out. And then we're going to just float the left leg up 2 inches. Inhale and place it down, almost like a flutter kick. And then we're going to lift that right leg 2 inches and set it down. So you're just going for a little swim. And you can keep the forehead pressing down. And the forearms are extending to the degree that feels comfortable for you. And we're toning the back of the head. Another weak point. Let's take our heads to the floor. Let's take our arms wide off the mat. And inhale, coming up to our first cobra of the day, child's pose. As we walk the hands back and drop the hips to the knees. Even as you take a few breaths in child's pose, balasana, you can feel the arms extending forward, the armpits lifting, how do the shoulders feel? Inside, outside of shoulder. Even child's pose, extended child's pose, which we're doing, requires some awareness in the joint spaces. And then you're going to walk your hands back. So you're sitting on your shins, virasana. And then just take your fingertips down to the ground. See if you can lift one knee off the ground to stretch the front of the shin, the anterior tibialis, and then the other shin. Just while we're here, we'll warm up and stretch the calves. Let's stitch the fingers together and take our bound Urdhva Hastasana. And hugging the outer arms to the main line of the body so that the inside of the shoulder and the neck can relax. all the connected yoga poses offer some instruction as to how those joint cavities need to be strengthened and held. Let's go to the other side. Simple warm up, and we'll just flip around to the right. And so our right side is facing the wall in Sukhasana. We'll take the right hand and extend it like a traffic cop of yesteryear, spreading the fingers. And you can even close your eyes as you expand the left palm down near the hip and start to fill the rib cage front and back through the shoulders. Imagine your energy of your breath going through the arms into the center of the palm, spreading out into the finger joints. So your awareness and the subtlety of your awareness is always growing, like the roots and the branches of a plant. Now let's put the right hand down on the ground, reach up left arm, and start to lean into the wall. As you do, pay attention to the right hip, push it into the ground, lift up higher. Keep the left sitting bone grounded as well, and just extend your breath. Not past the point where you begin to struggle. And then come back, same thing. Right arm into wall, left hand into the ground. So we could say that the left side is the grounded side, the aponic side, and the right side is the prana side. Now as we slide the left arm forward, and the right arm comes up and over, and we lean away from the wall. Same thing, we gotta watch the lower hip, push it into the ground, come up, and then you're just gonna slide your left arm forward to slide your entire lateral left body down on the ground, and scoot your feet, your stacked feet, right over left into the wall. I like to take a few breaths with the left forearm just in front of my shoulder. Let's get a little more stretch to these underside ribs. I'm going to tone my legs into the wall. I'm going to tone the outer hips. And you could just start to do your lateral leg lifts with your right leg in this position. But if you have some sort of a spinal issue, lumbar issue, maybe you need to lay your left arm down and do this. Do about 10. And then you could come up in the classic Anandasana with your left forearm propping and hand propping up your head, and your upper arm bone sliding in the same line as the rest of your body. Now we come into Anandasana, placing the right foot high on the inseam of the left leg. Take a little peek toward that, your head is up, toward the right knee, and place the right hand against the inner knee, creating some strength, some points of connection. It's going to tighten the outer hips, tighten the core as we move toward extending. You even test your balance with your right arm going up to the sky. And you know what comes next. You can either strap around right foot or take the big toe. Show off, folks, just kick right up into your first two fingers of your left hand. Keep pushing into the wall. And then breathe. So, even if you get the leg up, what's happening with the lower ribs? Can you inchworm them forward as you push into the wall? And you keep your tailbone moving toward the wall as well. And then releasing from whatever version of that you had. And laying on your belly. Same thing, crocodile. Do the flutter kick. Chin drawn in a little. And then back up toward the back of the skull as we worked on Wednesday. Jalandhara. Toning the backs of the legs. And then resting the head on the ground, sliding the hands out from the shoulders. Inhale, cobra pose. And exhale, child's pose. Take a few breaths in an extended child's pose. Starting to import the bandhas, if you haven't already, drawing your belly in. On inhale, engaging the pelvic floor in the tailbone area as you exhale. Come right up now to hands and knees. Make sure your knees are under your hips, your hands are under your shoulders. And cat and cow, arch and curl. Warming up your spine. And if the spine is not both warmed up and ready to go, then as you start to extend, it's a bit of a problem. So let's go ahead and just take the right foot back and watch your spacing to the wall. I'm going to crawl forward a little so you can put that right foot and heel with more pressure into the wall. And then just push your palms down. And thumb bone, index finger. Spread the upper shoulder blades apart, peek forward. And just tone the back of that right leg. We're just doing this with our flutter kick. And then switch. Easy stuff. And then the left heel and foot go to the wall. Not too high. Not too high. You should be able to drop your head, peek down and see your left toes. Push into the wall. Push into the floor. Feel the strength around the left hip and both shoulders. So it's easy to just kind of gloss through these simple preliminaries without feeling the strength that you need to establish by using your extremities, your distal pieces of your body, your hands and your feet, and the connecting points of the body. And then release. And let's curl the toes under and come up to a downward dog. Pedal out the feet and walk them back to the wall so the heels are up the wall, like high heel down dog. Maybe the hands walk back too. You can bend your knees and look toward your hands and spread them. The way the weight is placed in the hands will mimic the way the shoulders carry the weight. And then extend your arms, extend your legs. Full down dog. And feel around the shoulders whether you're collapsing. Now we're going to come forward to high push-up position and come down to our knees again. From here, let's go back with that right foot, gauging your distance, and pushing into the wall of the right heel. Now let's take it one step further and lift our left arm forward, commonly known as bird dog, and look toward that front hand, scoop the belly in, tailbone down, press, and then switch sides. Knees together, left foot press, engage around that left hip, right arm forward. How are the shoulders? Are they able to hug into the main frame of the body? Scoop the belly in. So let's go for a little walk. The foot goes back and plants, the arm floats up. As you walk, you don't need to watch me, you can just work with your body. And remember, those that were here, my tip of the week, which is that the descent of the tailbone downward, like the bottom of a seesaw, or the side going down, lifts the other side, the upper body, up. So as you push into the wall, if there's too much arch in your low back and kickback of your tailbone rather than a slight tuck, it's hard to maintain the arm lift. Okay? Really good. Preliminary stuff, and let's go back to our extended child's pose. And then coming up to hands and knees, let's come up to our second downward dog. Now, extra credit for experienced folks. If you're near a wall, feet together, three-legged dog. I'm going to glide the left leg up the wall. You can bend the right knee and really extend as if that left heel could find a surface of its own, as if we're somehow pushing into an unseen wall of that left heel. Watch the shoulders, pressure on the shoulders. You need to bend your right knee to get your monkey tail tailbone engaged, and then expand like a starfish. Through the fingertips, through the left heel, and then switch. Left foot down, right leg up the wall. Square off, maybe a little bend in the left knee, and then move your breath through the shoulders, through the fingers, like you're superwoman flying, chest lifted, head dropped with Jalandhar Bandha. Reach through that extended right heel, up the wall. Come down, come to high plank, hands and knees. Sit back to on your shins, to Virasana, and take a little break. So, you should be starting to feel some of this work now. Let's take it to the lateral side, and we'll take the right foot up the wall, but then we'll turn the right toes out. Turn the right toes out to the right, and come up on your right fingertips. So now you're in a sideways position, and you can even look a little bit to your right, engaging the outer right hip, and then can you get your right hand to come right up on your right hip and rotate your body for kneeling Ardha Chandrasana. If you got your balance, if your right hip is toned, give it a little pat. If your left shoulder is not getting crushed, then you can bring your right arm up. And the right arm coming up could even pretend it's pushing into a wall too. And push the palm up to the sky, bring the shoulder blade tips together. Those that absolutely must can take the right foot off the wall, grab it, and take a mini back bend. Stretch. Let's try the other side. Kneeling, glide that left foot to the wall. Again, not too high. Look down, toes are sighted. And then turning, left toes out to the left, coming up in your left fingers. And we did this work already. We did our leg lifts, remember? We were doing them like so. So now, the left hip, the glute medial muscles should know the work. But push into the wall. Take your left hand to your hip just to feel those muscles, and then extend your left arm up to the sky. It's true you don't need the wall, but having that foot engage. And now push into the ground with your right hand and press your left palm similarly up to the sky like you're pushing away two walls. Now you should feel total integrity in the body. And let's come down. Take a child's pose. And then a downward dog. Then your knees look toward your hands, and step or jump your feet to your hands. Flat back, hands on shins, drawing the chin to the chest. As I mentioned on Wednesday, drawing the base of the throat up toward the back of the skull. Forward fold. Even in forward fold, you can feel the hip and the shoulder joints. And then Utkatasana, chair, inhale. Standing Tadasana, exhale. Let's go back to the wall now that we're standing and do the same thing with our left arm. We're going to bring our feet together now. And the feet have already experienced what it's like to be held together in Anandasana, firing all the muscles as if they were a shrink wrap around the bones of the legs, the hips. And that gives you a nice integrity. And then you can bring your breath. If you're someone who sings, you have to take bigger and bigger breaths to sustain tone of voice, a sound, and that same engagement of the diaphragm. Now sending your breath energy through that left shoulder joint. How does it feel? Is there an injury in there? Can you take your right hand to the top of the deltoid and feel that joint? And make sure that the muscles of the upper trapezius along the neck are not getting overfired. Really good. And now what we'll do is just the same thing we did in Anandasana. We're going to lift our left leg and just tap the wall. Little leg lifts. And what happens to the integrity on the right side and through the right heel when we come out with that left leg, tap the wall? Do about, maybe Hillary do about 200, Catherine 300. Okay, the next time you tap the wall with your left foot, place the left foot down near the wall, glide your left hip closer to the wall, and then slide your left arm up the wall. And now we're going to try to lengthen that left lateral side. If you want a deeper stretch, you can start to use your right hand on the wall, drop your left hip entirely into the wall. And you get the stretch. Come back up. Now, let's take the right foot into tree pose and place the right foot high on the inseam of the left leg. Still reaching up the wall with the left arm, but I'm going to turn the back of the knuckles into the wall instead of our palm, and push the back of the knuckles into the wall. And now start to tone that left heel and see what you've got. And take the right hand, the back of the right hand into the inner right knee and push, and let the knee push back. And these pushes into the wall with the hands bring us back into the mainframe, into the spine, the length. Then of course you don't need the wall after a time. And then let's release. I'm going to step before we're done with this side, the right foot forward to an easy warrior one. And then bring the arms down, and we'll take the left hand to the wall again, turn the fingers back, and glide that arm behind us, keeping the left elbow bent, right hand to hip, and then drop into a deeper lunge, just to stretch open that pec minor on the left front of the shoulder. Okay, and let's turn and face the wall, switch. Feet together, traffic calm, pop right arm to the wall, spread the fingers. Get tall, shrink wrap the muscles of the legs to the bones, And then little leg lifts, just tapping, right foot to wall, 10 times or so. Easy stuff. And then we're going to step in halfway to the wall, that right foot, slide our right arm up, and then lean into the wall. Keep pushing into the wall so the stretch is dynamic. The right arm. Some of you can get your right hip entirely to the wall, but I'd rather you work strength with points of connection. Okay, and then can you come into a tree pose with the left foot high on the inseam of the right leg? Keep reaching up the wall with the right hand, but you can spin the palm away from the wall. So now it's the back of your right hand that's pressing. Allows you to relax your right side of your neck. And then the icing on the cake is to take the back of the left hand and push it into the inner left knee. So these outward points of connection bring you back to the center line. And then release. Now let's try the left side again, now that you know the drill, and we're going to take it to triangle pose. So left hand into the wall, left leg lifts and taps the wall, left foot goes down, left arm up, and then take your tree pose, your variation. And feel that whole left side lengthening, strengthening. So when we come into Trikonasana in a second, I want you to maintain in side angle this whole strength that we're establishing on the left side. Let's try it. Now we're going to artfully step forward into Warrior Two, and then take our side angle. And imagine as we take the right forearm on the right knee and drop, imagine that that whole left side is still pushing into an unseen wall, and that left outer hip is still doing its leg lift. That will allow some of you to take your left hand to your hip, reach down and come right into real Ardha Chandrasana with the leg lifting up. And then the left arm lifting up. And it's no problem with the engagements we've established for some of you to affect this. Others stay happy in side angle. Come up and let's try triangle pose. But let's shift our feet toward the wall now and do it with some points of connection work. So you're going to put the left hand back against the wall and lean into it. Again, watch the left shoulder joint. You can take your right hand and just calm down where the deltoid ends. Now start to lean into the wall. Feet spread as long as you want, but feet moving apart, belly scooping in, just like you're trying to push down the wall and spread the mat. So beginner would be happily placed in this manner. Now take the fingers, left fingers out like we did moments ago. You can even lay your head if you're feeling a little lazy, right on your left arm as we did in Anandasana. But keep pushing. And then some can just glide the left hand down to the left shin. And now you're preset for a perfect Trikonasana. And then up you come. Square off Prasarita Padottanasana while we're here. Feet to parallel, hands to hips. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, fold. Lift to a flat back, and drop in. You can grab your ankles, you can walk your hands back toward a tripod headstand. And we're just doing a little bit of a flyby. Spreading the feet away from one another, toning the legs. Coming up to a flat back, and then hands to hips, and lift. Let's try that other side. And before we do, let's take our left hand to the wall like a traffic cop and repeat the sequence. A little leg lifts, the right leg tapping. Then we step into the wall, slide the right arm up the wall, stretch dynamically, pushing into the wall, lengthening the right side. And then tree pose, spinning the right palm away from the wall, and the left hand now comes inside the left knee, setting it all up. And then from here, we're going to artfully look to the front of the mat and just step forward with that left foot. Start to lean forward. You can use your left forearm on your knee. And as you drop in, feel the engagement, the extension, that entire right side. As if you're still pushing the back of the right wrist up into a wall. So you're still lifting, leg lifting, with that outer right hip. And then everything lifts up. Beginners stay here. Advanced students, right hand to hip, lift down, reach to the ground with the left fingers, and up comes that leg lift of the right leg. And then up comes that extension of that right arm as if pushing into the wall. The whole right side is fabulously brought to fruition. Step back wherever you are. Now we're going to spiral toward the wall for triangle. I've got my toes about 6 inches from the wall, my right ones, and the back foot's at 30. And then I'm just going to push into the wall. Try not to crunch around the right shoulder, keep it steady. Spread the fingers, left hand to hip, and just find your points of connection. The feet pushing down with the tailbone, spreading the feet apart, spreading the right hand apart. Everything is integrated. Now we take a little turn with the right fingers out to the right. Some have hypermobility, can take the fingers all the way down. I'll leave that up to you, and you can even take your head down on top of your right arm. And lengthen the head like an inchworm along that arm, just like an Anandasana. And then maybe that's as good as it gets, because you're still building strength, the muscles in the back, extensors around the right shoulder. But maybe you know the moment where your right hand goes to your shin, and you can take your full Trikonasana. Inhale, come up. And then we're going to take Prasarita with the parallel feet. Just going to spin around so don't lose a visual. So before we do, let's take our toes and point them at about 45 degrees, come into goddess pose. We've omitted doing goddess recently. Hands to hips. Sit on a very wide burro, donkey, or horse if you prefer. And then the arms come out in goalpost. Peek down, draw the belly in, drop the tailbone. So now, as we do certain extensions, here you can feel we're hanging the arms on the shoulder joints. We're dropping down into the hips. How strong are those outer hips now? I said, let's hang out here for a while. But instead, let's take the hands back to the hips and glide the hands halfway down the legs, lean forward, and start to rotate to the left as you exhale. Inhale to center, and then spiral the chest to the right. So now feel your rib cage as part of the equation. In successful extensions. Then come up, kick the toes out, and forward fold into Prasarita. 5 to 10 breaths there. I'm just going to grab my water so my mouth gets dry. So start to make your way up from Prasarita. And if you're not that far along in your yoga practice, you might want a chair, or you possibly work against the wall. And now we're going to start to do some extensions in wide-legged fold. So take a peek. You might have a chair handy, and go back to our burro riding position. And then we're going to glide over with the legs now instead of the chest. And then maybe lift the heels and start to feel the legs, the hips. Some of you can go all the way down into, this is where you might need the chair. One hip and then all the way over to the other. Skandasana. Skanda, of course, was one of the sons of Shiva. A little yoga trivia. And so here's where things get juicy in the hips. A little stretching of that hammy. Some people have the strength around the hip joints that they're doing this skandasana with their hands crossed on their shoulders and really articulating the muscles around the legs. But be safe. Now, if you do have a chair and you're down on one hip, you're going to slide that chair forward on the diagonal. So I'm in my left hip, I'm going to slide diagonally forward to extend my arms and lean down like an extended child's pose. See how that feels. Those that don't need a chair, of course, could be working on the floor with their fingers just stretching out on the diagonal, and then using your hands on the floor to shift over to the right hip, take a breath, and then maybe crawl the fingers and the arms on the diagonal to the left. Chair's kind of nice. Go easy as we start to really stretch the fascia in asymmetry. The payoff is coming back to center and forward folding. You'll have a much deeper forward fold. You may get your head to the ground and Prasarita. Flat back, hands to hips, and then coming up. Let's bring the feet together before we get too far into that extension. And come to the front of the mat. Bring the feet together, toning the legs, and Urdhva Hastasana, reaching up. Inhale, exhale, fold down. Walk your way back to high plank, and then to downward dog. with your right leg high, and this time bending the right knee, opening the hip. Feel the shoulders engaging along the joint, the deltoids. So you push forward and hold this open hip pose. You just open the hips a little bit. But how's that right hip doing? Is it engaged around the joint, or is it lazy? And then half pigeon saves you. And you come down onto that right hip and slide back. Come down onto your forearms, placing your head on your forearms, and take your left toes out. So we just did a little extending work in the hips, and if you've got a good half pigeon going, I'll just spin so you can see. You can come up onto your forearms or straight arms and see if you can start to extend on the diagonal here out from that right knee. I'm going to use my left hand at first, keeping my right hand planted, and just start to crawl along the floor so that I make a connection with that left leg, the extended left leg, and the left arm now getting a nice stretch. And even put my head on my right hand and just push into the floor with the left leg and the left arm. It's the same stretch we did earlier in class against the wall with that left lateral body. Okay, let's come up and try the other side without anything tricky. Downward dog. The left leg's going to lift. The left knee bends, we roll open. And then the danger of asymmetrical legs, of course, is what's happening in the shoulder joints. The rib cage, we've already started to open and extend. How does that outer left hip feel? Is it just lazy? Or can you rein it in? Can you tone the left hip muscles? Scoop the belly. And then half pigeon. Using a blanket on your left hip or block if it doesn't get to the ground. And then coming down your forearms just to set the legs. Then using your breath, coming up to forearms or straight arms, and we're going to try to use our left hand as a kickstand and just reach. As if you're doing half pigeon, suddenly your cell phone that you left across the room, of course you didn't shut your phone off, which was your first mistake in yoga. You're trying to reach just beyond you with the right arm in the direction of your left knee. And you push down to your right foot, and then you find the floor and you're going to crawl toward it. Go easy. Place your head down and really feel the stretch through that lateral spiral body on the right side. You could stay there for quite a while if you have sore muscles that are getting nicely opened. And then let's take downward dog. Again, extending through strong shoulder connections, through strong hip connections, space and strength in those joints. Look for a jump or step to seated and shoot your legs forward. As we do just a few forward folds at the end of class, we'll also keep in mind the forward folds are extensions. We worked on this a little bit on Wednesday. So if folks do forward folds, we can do Paschimottanasana, grabbing the feet, finding your strap or using your towel and hooking up the long arms. And what we have to be careful of is just not leaning and extending beyond the capacity of the main frame of the body, the low back, the shoulder joints, the hip joints to tolerate this work. So leaning, even in a simple, innocent pose like Paschimottanasana, without engagement around the outer hips, without the proper engagement around the shoulders, hugging the upper arm bones into the main frame of the body. So you can just work modestly halfway there and find a lot of strength pushing the backs of your legs and your sit bones actually down into the earth, rather than thinking, well, I need to stretch those hammies, I'm going to just hold them and stretch them endlessly like rubber bands, because eventually they'll break. What you're looking for as you get older is to be able to reach forward with the arms and hold free floating. So you can try that. And then from there, it's an easy trip to slide your one foot and the other foot back, lift your feet into Navasana. And here's the same pose, Paschimottanasana, except we're in the air. And the extension, the strength is required is here. So you could just try putting the heels down, sliding the legs, lean forward, scoop the belly in, how the shoulder joints, how those hip joints, lean back, slide the legs, lift up, and just play here in this simple vinyasa. Some of you can grab the feet and pull back against it, but not even trying to take that deep stretch. You need to bend your knees, it's fine. But finding connection. When you get it, it feels nice. Let's take the feet down and the knees out to Baddha Konasana, and you can slide your hips toward your heels by taking your hands behind you. Then bind under the feet and push the feet down, push the knees down. And then from that down pressure, from that strength, let the spine float. Now you're going to shoot your right leg forward, Janu Shirshasana. These are simple, basic poses, but we're just doing them a little different. We did this about a month ago in this one. Watch. Instead of just saying, I'm so flexible, I can just touch my head to my shin, we're going to take this a different way. We take our left fingers around our left knee, hook them around there. We push our right palm down, and we push that left knee down into the ground, strengthening around the left hip, and you lift the chest. Now, if you're going to go forward, fine, but what's happening with the left hip? Can you keep pushing it into the ground? Because that's what allows me to free float, as I was doing earlier. Or I come back and I have a hybrid boat pose from the strength established on the ground. So often I'll do my forward folds in this manner, almost like a Pilates yoga. Let's try the other side, and then we'll have to wrap it up. And we'll pull the right foot in. We'll take the right hand around the bent right knee, and we'll take the left palm down near the hip. Much the same way as we started class. Now we're going to push the right hip down into the ground. Push, tone those muscles. That down pressure lifts the chest up and allows the breath to flow freely in the ribs. So if you're going to take it forward, only take it forward to the point where you're not losing the anchor, the down pressure of that back hip. That you could, theory, lean back and take a half boat in this Janu Shirshasana formation, and all the integrity around the hip joint is there. Okay, let's go ahead and glide onto our backs. Pretty easy practice today, hopefully. And take your descent in Shavasana, or elevate your legs in shoulder stand if you want an inversion. Eventually, though, letting the limbs relax, the legs, as the toes turn out, the palms to the sky. The way you hold or sensate your palms and the soles of your feet will give a signal into the main frame of the body. So if those are relaxed, they feel the current of air around you, then everything else relaxes. You can stay in Shavasana longer. It's recommended. But I'll close class by bending the knees, rolling to one side, and coming up to seated. Taking a moment, if you're sitting, to feel your hip connections into the earth, to feel the shoulders relaxed and solidly anchored from the work into the rib cage, palms to heart. Take a final Om to consolidate the work. Inhale. Om. Namaste.